Managing Those Pennies, brought to you with the good wishes of Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
Welcome back to Morning Barbados. The time is quickly going by. Well, you shouldn't have to worry too much about that much traffic. Hopefully, people will be dashing around and stuff like that. But maybe because the children are now out of school, you might have a few extra minutes to play around with. I am hoping so. But we are talking about managing those pennies. Good morning, Crystal.
Good morning.
Always good to see you.
You as well.
And you are with your Santa hat. Well, kind of, because this is a pink and black Santa hat.
I try to do things a little bit differently, but I hope I'm still bringing some Christmas cheer. I hope, because I know this is a very somber morning, and my condolences to the CBC family, but I hope I can bring a little bit of cheer, just a little.
Well, thank you so much. I know that there's an article that you saw in the newspaper that has touched you deeply.
Yes.
So before we get into finances, I know you wanted to mention a little something.
Yes. It's a letter that was written to the editor, so we obviously will not be able to be sure of the circumstances, but I wanted to speak to anybody who these circumstances would have applied to. A young 16-year-old Sylvester Roberts, he wrote to the editor concerning an encounter where he would have been inspired by the Prime Minister's speech and decided that he was going to go into town and send in applications in person. But he came across someone who, in his words, took his application letter, said they didn't have any jobs, and threw it away in front of customers. And from his letter, he's saying he just went back home, and I understand that it would really hurt to have something
Even
like that
feel
happen.
dejected.
Yes. And the unfortunate thing is that there are a lot of persons in this world who will not give you the kind of response that you're hoping for, and that is unfortunate. But I want to encourage him to go out there and to keep trying, because you may encounter one mean person, two mean, 10, 100, but don't let that cause you to miss out on opportunities to become something better, because going back home and sitting down, that person's moving on with their life and they're progressing and they're growing, but you are missing out on opportunities to become the best person that you can be. And it is up to us to go out there and to find the opportunities that will help us to grow and to help us to become a better person. And I wanted him to know, and any other young person who may have encountered something like this, don't let negative people stop you from being the best person that you can be.
Wow, that's amazing, and that's important, because you can really break somebody's spirit in doing something like that.
And I'm hoping that employers, if they see young persons, because we must remember when we were 16, we did not have all the confidence in the world and we didn't have the benefit of experience. If you can, you don't have to. You can take a look at the application, even if you don't have any jobs available, and at least give them some pointers as to where they could improve.
But just to trash it in front of them, that's a whole other story, and that's something that we definitely should look at. But to get back on track a little bit, holidays, everybody is saying we have the best Christmas loan, the best interest rate. But if you ask the average person, what's the interest rate on your loan, they really can't answer.
I don't know, and that's where we ended last week, where we were talking about some of the questions that you should ask when you're applying for a loan. And knowing what your interest rate is one of them. Knowing how often it's calculated, because some persons have loans where the interest rate may be calculated daily, monthly, quarterly, and that kind of information makes a difference. Because if your loan is calculated monthly, you will know that you have to get your payments in before a certain time so that it will calculate on a lower balance, instead of maybe you're making your payments just after that particular cutoff date, where it's not having as much of an impact as you would like. So if it's quarterly, you want to make sure that you have all of your payments in before that cutoff time where it's going to calculate. And these are some of the questions that I would encourage persons to ask.
All right. So what about all of these before we even get to the big loans? Because a big thing in Barbados is the hire purchase plans. So before we get to that, a lot of people are saying, well, come now, don't pay anything down, and a few months you are okay, and then you can pay in the new year. What should people look out for in instances like that?
So again, you would have obviously the sales pitch, which it will be very accurate. You don't have to pay anything down, but you have to ask what happens after that grace period expires. Will I experience a higher interest payment because I would have had that benefit? What kind of rates am I looking at? What's the repayment period? What kind of fees are involved? And that's another important question. It should be on the slides. There are a lot of fees and considerations that you have to be looking at. So some persons may have a processing fee. And that's literally just for the fact that they're doing this loan for you.
Just to apply.
Just to apply.
So what type of money are we talking about when we're talking about this processing fee?
Most people's processing fees tend to be very low, but it might be a percentage. So you might see a 1 or 2% charge on the outstanding balance of the loan that you're about to get. So if you're going to be getting a loan, you have to also include that in the amount that you're going to be getting to see if this is something you're going to pay separately or if it's going to be something that you have to take out.
I think usually they deduct it because you never get the full amount that you're looking to get.
So understand, if you expected to get 5,000 and let's say that the fee was 1% and you're getting a little bit less, you will then have to go and figure out how you're going to make that amount up.
Oh, wow. What else should we look out for when we're heading out for loans this season?
This usually applies to larger loans, but you also have to look out for if there are any prepayment penalties. So for instance, if you have a mortgage, and I had in some previous slides where it was encouraging persons to pay early, you do have to bear in mind that some persons may charge you a penalty if you pay off the loan early, because then that is income they would have been looking for that they're no longer going to have. So they're going to charge you a prepayment penalty if certain conditions aren't met. Many times you just have to give notice, and in the contract they usually tell you how much notice to give, but this is again why it's important to read your contracts and to read between all of the fine print, because you want to make sure that if you do any of these things, you're not surprised with fees or penalties that were right there written for you, but because the contracts tend to sometimes be very long, you don't notice them.
What about these, a lot of unsecured loans are being bandied around this time of year as well. So tell us the pros and cons of these unsecured loans, because it sounds very, very appealing, but is it that beneficial to the consumer?
Well, coming a couple slides down, I actually have some of the advantages of the credit where you would be able to get the money that you need right now. So there are persons who are in situations where they need the money now, they have an emergency or they have things they didn't budget for, and the situations can't wait. A credit card will help you to be able to get this quickly, hire purchase. All of these forms of unsecured loans or quick loans can help you to be able to get what you need. I know Christmas is coming around, and as much as it's not a surprise, persons still feel that rush at that time of the year to get the house looking in order. You know, mummies want to have the curtains and the mats and...
But that's the good thing about Christmas, you know,
Yes.
that excitement and that last minute running around and getting wonderful gifts for everybody. You know, it's the spirit. It's the spirit of the season.
It is the spirit, but you want to make sure that even though you get into the spirit of things, that when January comes, which is the longest month of the year, that you are not left in a financial situation where you're regretting everything that you did. You want to leave Christmas with a good feeling and with that spirit intact. So you would have the records of your purchases, you would have quick accessible cash that is not as stealable, for lack of a better words, as hard cash. So you would be able to then take advantage of these different things, the convenience, being able to consolidate all of your bills that you may have and make that one payment to one person as opposed to having a lot of different persons that you would be giving out your money to.
Crystal, I want to touch quickly on credits. I know you mentioned it briefly, but I am being told that there are still some companies in Barbados who they hold on to credit ratings and stuff like that, credit transactions that would have happened over decades, and they're still presenting them. What's the policy when it comes to credit ratings and this credit rating agency?
You're speaking from an individual or company?
Individual perspective.
Okay. So for an individual, your history is going to be looked at, and that includes your history with credit in the past and your ability to repay any of your debts. And that is going to make a difference as to whether you're going to be a person who would get a loan or credit or hire purchase or anything else easily, or if you're going to have to give additional information or pay a higher rate to be able to assure persons that you're going to pay this loan back. So if persons look at your history and history indicates that you might be a credit risk, it may even result in them saying you cannot get this credit unless you give us some kind of security that you would be willing to give up in place of us being able to give you our funds.
All right, thank you so much, Crystal Howell. Always good to see you. If I don't see you before, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
Always great to see you. Of course, every Monday we teach you how to manage those pennies with the compliments of Republic Bank.
Managing Those Pennies, brought to you with the good wishes of Republic Bank. We're the one for you.